Grum of Ossicod. Go back to a previous episode, this was already mentioned. Rayner hears it. I'm getting a message now. Whoa. What is Michael saying? We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. It's okay, don't worry, we're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. We're gonna make it. We made it. Are you guys ready for Lagrange Point? That's how I always pronounced it. Lagrange. And since the episode titles for the season were revealed weeks ago, I was wondering how they were going to pronounce Lagrange. They say Lagrange. I always said Lagrange. But I've heard Lagrange before in my life. That's right, I'm familiar with the concept. That'll be explained in more detail when we get there. But this is the penultimate episode of Discovery itself, given that it ends with this season. This is the episode before the last episode of Season 5 of Star Trek Discovery, the final season. Ultimate means final, and pen means a thing that you write with. So when we put them together, it means the one before the end. So what's going on in Lagrange Point, Star Trek Discovery? Well, we're catching up Saru. We're getting back up to speed with the character that we lost for like 5 episodes plus. Saru, where have you been all my life? As in the last few weeks, he's been gone from the show, along with the Wayshikan and Detmer. I don't really know if they left because the show was ending and they just kind of wanted to get off a quote-unquote sinking boat. But it's odd having new characters occupy the bridge at the very end of the show. It hits a little weird, I'm gonna say. I don't really know who these people are. What is there? Asha, Jemison, Gallo. I think I got that right. We're at the end of the show and I don't know the bridge crew. I kind of know Reese. It's very cool that he gets to do something. We're in the episode before the final episode, so now we're at the point where anything new that they have to establish is going to be very, very hard to establish. I'm giving up hope, kind of, that we're going to establish a new villain, other than Moll, if you can call Moll a villain. Moll is more like a temporarily confused adversary to the Federation. Doesn't really give off the flavor of a villain, which you might think is good, right? Star Trek does not always need a villain, right? I don't really like that whole there's a bad guy mindset. I've never been in love with that. But we had Rune. Rune is gone. Maybe it would have been better if we had kept Rune around. I don't know. What do we gain by switching to Moll? With these things out of the way, let's dissolve some more tension with Lagrange Point. Saru is being told, listen, Primarch Tahal, she's on her way and things are about to get bad. And the Discovery, it's going to get outrun by the Breen Dreadnought, which doesn't really have a name yet. What is this ship called? If we're going to have a villain ship, it should really have a name. Am I right? But this is a Dreadnought class Breen ship that used, guess what? In Star Trek, when something gets somewhere really fast, we need to explain how it did it. Oh, it went through a wormhole or a transwarp conduit in this case. So now Discovery is actually going to be there late. That's right, Starfleet's fastest ship is being beaten by the hulking juggernaut Dreadnought. The Dreadjugger, the Jugger Dread, the Breen ship. How are we slower than that ship? How did we not mobilize the pathway drive sooner? Oh wait, President Rillak says, we dare not use the pathway drive now because that would be seen as, an invitation to battle. It would be seen as a threat. Pathway drive in itself seeming like a weapon. Wow, what's this brand new ship type? We do see what I believe to be the Voyager flyby. Not quite fully in frame, but we get to see its ventral side. I think, just from what I've seen, that was the Voyager flying in front of Starfleet headquarters. Not that it matters. So we're sending a shuttle That's right. We can fit the pathway drive in a shuttle. Remember last season when Tarka had a portable spore drive that could fit into Book's ship? That would be handy to have now, given that the spore drive is currently broken on the Discovery. Maybe we could have brought a spare one. I don't know. Maybe we didn't exactly have a good record of that design. And I think Book's ship was destroyed. It's hard to remember these things. Discovery is a show that tends to introduce interesting concepts and then kind of forget about them. Remember that Adira has a Trill symbiont in their body? I almost didn't. Dax used to constantly bring up anecdotes and little turns of phrases and historical information based on what the symbiont was thinking. You hardly ever see Adira doing that. I don't know, maybe it's that Adira has a hard time communicating with it. I don't know. An interesting concept that's totally forgotten about. Similar to Saru. Saru went through, Vihari, where he transformed from a prey animal into a predator animal, into Action Saru. What does it mean at the end? Oh yeah, Zora. The Discovery has a sentient computer in it. What does it mean? Does that factor into anything? It felt like there was no end point. You introduce an idea, it kind of has a logical through line to a point where it pays off thematically. So we introduce all of these things very front-loaded in this series. And I feel like, it's not unfounded, given that we're at the end of Discovery. I can say these things, I can kind of reflect on Discovery itself. Not that this is supposed to be a retrospective on Discovery. That will come later. This is a review of Lagrange. Point. So what is the point here? Pathway drive. Mention it right at the beginning. Back at the end. We're putting it on a shuttle. Saru, you have to get on this shuttle. It's not seen as threatening as a whole starship. So you and the pathway drive, and it has to be you, buddy. For dramatic purposes, Saru, it's got to be you. So Saru kind of says, those heartfelt goodbyes, the goodbyes you say when you don't think you're coming back, to Tarina, because we know it's got to be Saru that has to intercept Tahal, the other Primarch. There are multiple Breens vying for control here. We have to send them a message, but it has to be one apiece, and we have to use the pathway drive. Thank you for potentially maybe showing me the pathway drive next episode. That basically sums it up for Saru. His whole plot is a few seconds of screen time, minutes probably, maybe I'm overreacting here, and a few lines, and he's gone. Would it have been better to save that for a surprise for the last episode? I don't know. Maybe he could have just showed up in a shuttle with the pathway drive at the very end of the next episode, and then told this story about how they came to the conclusion that they had to use the shuttle in flashback in his mind. Maybe that would have been cooler. I know I'm kind of rewriting the episode, but I do think that this episode, this season, a lot of Discovery, a few rewrites could have made it awesome, but I'm not a writer. I don't know how difficult this is. I don't know what's going on in the writer's room. I don't pretend to know. But methinks interesting concepts were kind of going wasted. Okay, so Saru off screen is on what it's going to amount to a suicide mission with this pathway drive. I have a feeling we're going to kill him, but you know what they do? They make you think they're going to kill someone, and that's a misdirection. They kill the character you weren't expecting. Maybe they'll do that. I don't know. But this episode is full of, Michael saying, "Hey, I have a wedding to go to. You damn right I'm going to be okay after this," which is the exact kind of dialogue you put in when they're going to die. A person starts talking about what they're going to do after this. It's something you do to kind of mentally prepare yourself for danger, but it's also something a writer does to make you wonder if they're going to die. And I think Michael had that dialogue, Saru had that, so it remains to be seen. These two really important characters. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Book. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Book died somehow. I don't know, but then again, I thought, spoilers, I thought Riker was going to die in Picard Season 3, which didn't happen. Thank you. We arrive at a binary black hole that we could not detect on long-range sensors. Something like that would light up like a Christmas tree against the vastness of space. There is no way you couldn't see that on long-range sensors. The spore drive is broken. I don't know where we're going to jump to. Well, we got to do it anyway. And they end up in the accretion disk of a black hole, kind of like it's ring. It's a debris field around it, essentially, what it's sucking in. And remember what I said about dissolving tension? Why didn't we say, there's a binary black hole system we're going into, and the spore drive isn't working right? Say this beforehand, and then we have a little discussion about, well, we have to do it. We don't have a choice. We're risking everything. We're going to spore jump into this black hole system without a fully working navigational system. Let's do it. If they had just said it, it would have made more sense. It would have been more tense, and it would have been more interesting. But they didn't. They did the now classic Star Trek thing where we warp into a dead stop right in front of something extremely dangerous. It's becoming classic now to not have long range sensors. We're into the realm of this being like a 20-year-old thing, basically, getting there. So that's unfortunate. It would have been cooler if we had known. It would have been more interesting. I would have been, along for the ride here that, oh no, what's going to happen when we warp spore jump into this black hole system? We do it. We don't go to the right spot. We're too close. If you came to a dead stop that close to a black hole, it'd be already too late. Right? What you would do is you would approach the black hole at a certain angle and use orbital mechanics to slingshot around it, hopefully using your warp bubble to avoid relativistic problems. That's how I would do it. But I'm not on Discovery, and we have long range sensors, so that would never happen on this ship. But the Discovery does show up in a rather unfortunate scenario, and they had a cloak on. Feel free to call me crazy, call me stupid, call me forgetful. I watch all of Discovery. I watched every episode of the season. Why do I not remember a cloak? I don't remember the Discovery having a cloak, and I didn't want to, spend time looking it up when I knew someone was just going to yell at me anyway. I don't know. I mean, why wouldn't they have a cloak? It's 3,100 whatever. I don't think anybody's worrying about some kind of legalese about not using a cloak, especially when it's the end of the freaking universe. Galaxy, I should say. Let's just use the cloak. It's not weird that it's there. It's weird that I didn't notice it. It's weird that I didn't know. But the cloak is here, and we're cloaked spore jumping into this black hole system at its Lagrange point. Guess what? That's where the progenitor tech thing is. That's the last thing we got to find. It's like a cylinder, and it's shaped kind of like a large version of that little key thing that we found. That we assembled over the whole season. They kind of do look like they're made by the same people, and they were made about 800 years ago. So this was not made by the progenitors. It was made by the people who found the technology originally and sealed it up. So it's been there for 800 years at this Lagrange point between these two black holes. Now I'll explain what that is. If you have one celestial body with a high enough gravity that you can orbit it, you cannot stay in one position. You have to do this. You have to circle it, right? Like a drain, right? You're circling the drain. If that same celestial body had another body of say similar mass in this case at a certain distance, there could be a point between these two where you could stay relatively stable. That's called a Lagrange point. Usually these systems have more than one Lagrange point. They'll be like L1, L2, L3, whatever. In this case, we have a rather tumultuous looking one between two black holes that something in my brain is telling me this is not stable from what I know about Lagrange points. But there it is, and according to Discovery, it's been safe there since 800 years, so I don't know. I'm sure you can get the picture. There's a fine line between safe and extremely dangerous. To make something really, really safe, you want to have it in a really, really stable position inside of something extremely dangerous. So, I mean, the writers knew what they wanted, but maybe they weren't exactly sure about how this Lagrange point was going to work. I don't know. Methinks it's a little bit more dangerous than they thought, to the safety and security of the progenitor tech. But we're too late. We already see the Breen dreadnought tractor beaming it in. We're too late. And at that point, I looked at it, what was happening. I kind of went into my library here, my library computer access and retrieval system in my mind. Went through a whole bunch of different Star Trek things. Okay, went through the Rolodex. And I was like, oh, we're going to have to go on the Breen ship. But it takes our characters like a whole moment in the boardroom talking and what amounts to 5 or 10 minutes of discussion to work up a plan to realize that we have to really just go into the Breen ship. We already knew that. We all knew this. Don't waste my time when we got only 10 episodes to do this. Maybe we should have just hard cut to them being on the Breen ship and then explain it to each other, in a flashback to what was going on here. We're on the Breen ship, blah, blah. Keep me interested. You know, you don't have to tell me. You don't have to tell me that, right? You don't have to tell me that we had to work up a plan to go on the Breen ship. I don't really need to know that. And I really, really, really don't need to have a moment where we're at a high stakes espionage mission, and then we stop to talk about her feelings, like between Book and Michael. Don't need that. Again, Discovery, where we're supposed to be in an urgent situation, fighting against the clock. We can take a break to discuss sweet nothings or sour somethings into our ears, and then when it's break time, we don't really do that. We just do nothing. We do a recap. I've noticed this with this season. It seems like there's a sense of urgency, but that then also we can stop to mess around. I don't know. It just seems. It seems like every urgent moment in Discovery this season has its own counterpoint of a lackluster, lackadaisical, cavalieristic attitude. What did all that mean? I don't know. Tell me I'm crazy. What are we going to do? We have to get on that Breen ship. We're going to break into 2 different teams. Adira has to go. We need a good hacker, and we have established somewhat that Adira can do this. Paul doesn't want her to go. Are you in Starfleet or not, Adira? Adira is. So Adira's going. And Adira and Culber and Paul are saying, man, I wish I could go on this adventure before the end of this season. And then Adira's like, hey, well, I got to do something. Reno doesn't. That's not what they say. That's what I said. It's what I superimposed over their dialogue, because that's what I was thinking. They don't want to see Adira go. But I do. I want to see these characters do something off the ship. Namely Paul. That's been on my wish list this whole season. Am I going to get the last episode? I'm starting to give up hope that Paul is going to do something awesome off the ship. Paul, you better get off that freaking ship and do something here. Wish list. Right off the bat. I want to see the Enterprise still. I want to see the Pathway Drive do something. I want to see Paul leave the ship. And I want to see Reno do something off the ship. Can we get that in the last episode? I don't know. I'm giving up hope on these things. We have to, number one, get a transpo lock, which is essentially, imagine just like having like a transporter, like a transponder you put on something like an old Trek, where you would put this thing on, boop, and it would increase your signal for the transporter. That's essentially what we're doing. Transpo lock. We need to put that object physically on the device, the progenitor tech container thingy. Number one. And number two, we have to figure out a way to disable the shield so we can beam it out. You're asking, how are we going to get in the ship? Doesn't it have shields on already? Guess what? The Breen ship has an exhaust port. And periodically, this shield will weaken at that point, and we can beam through for close enough with a shuttle. Shall we take a shuttle in? We're going to beam in. A team, B team. We got Adira, Book, Reese, Michael. And we can't beam in. There's a problem. Somebody's trying to beam in while we're beaming in, and it's going to cause some confusion. We don't have any time to worry about it. Boop, just do it. And they beam in, and they're fine. So, they made me worry for a second. But then that second was over, and it turned out they beamed in just fine. I don't know. So we're wandering around inside the Breen ship. How do we know where we're going? I don't know. We have our suits on. We have our helmets on. And we do that nasty helmet cam thing where it's like a black space behind us. And we see a ghostly image of their face along with HUD elements in front of them. And I don't know. It was cool 15 years ago. I'm tired of that whole thing. It's so obvious. I think we've already also done it in Discovery. Helmet view. I've come up with something a little bit more creative to show who's talking when we have these nondescript suits. I don't know. You had the whole season to come up with it. Maybe we don't need to see who's talking. Maybe that's not important. But we don't want our characters to be able to act, right? And how do you act through a suit with just a little visor? I don't know. And Adira specifically looks very odd. I've never seen... You take a character who has a decidedly spherical head, and you make it even more spherical by hiding it in like a black face mask that just reveals the face to accentuate the spherical nature of the face. And it's hard not to laugh But then again, I wanted Adira doing something off the ship, so, I'm not complaining. That's not a factor in the review. It's just something that was funny, which I want to say. You should know by now that there's a lot of crazy things that I will point out in an episode that don't really factor into anything. It's just something that was there. You know my rubric for rating these things, I'm sure. One team has to, like I said, disable that shield. The other team has to get the transpo lock on that device. We do fail a biometric scan. Who could have guessed the ship would have a biometric scan? If we could have guessed this, could we have transported something over their eyes so that would fool the biometric sensor when we got through that door, like we did in Strange New World Season 1, Episode 1? Remember that? I know I brought this up either last review or a few reviews ago. Why did we forget that we could do this? In 1,000 years, we should be able to do something way crazier than that. We should be able to, momentarily transport a face grown from that species on top of our face and then have it disappear when we don't need it. Get creative. But we didn't really do that. We just said, well, it's do or die. We're in the do or die phase now where things are so messed up now. We're just gonna, if it fails, we're gonna die anyway. So I think we just tell Book, just try the biometric scan. Just try it. I don't know. And they just say, okay, all right, let's go. We have no one else we can try. So he fails the biometric scan, and they get out of it by faking a fight with these guards. Like this is some kind of slapstick comedy. Your mileage may vary, but we do manage to easily, take down Breen soldiers, dissolving any kind of fear that the audience might have in these guys. When these guys were introduced, they were awesome, and they've slowly been whittled down to not awesome and to just look like stooges, if I'm honest. We lost a lot of tension when we killed Rune and gained nothing. Why is Rune dead? Why is it important that Moll is now like a quasi-leader of the Breen? What is that? What do we get out of that? It would have been cooler to have Rune still around, so that maybe at the last moment we could have a final showdown kind of like between Book and Rune, right? But that's gone now. That can't happen, so... there I go wanting a fist fight in Star Trek like some kind of idiot. But I want the final episode to have its best fighting chance to be interesting. So, forgive me for, giving them pointers here. Far be it from me to do that. Again, I wish that we spent time establishing the kind of Breen culture here. Why are we listening to Moll, to Hal is coming? If we're loyal to Moll and not her, we're dead. What's Moll gonna do? Why are we just listening to Moll? They did get married. Locke and Moll are married. Locke is the scion, for whatever that means. Why don't you just tell me that Breen government has a unique place for the wife of the scion should the scion die? Like, just tell me that legally they're required to listen to Moll. Just tell me. I don't want to keep trying to figure it out in my mind. I'm stupid. I can't figure this out. Just tell me. I mean, they have a little tattoo, a marriage thing, which is an interesting tattoo to get, by the way. Or was it a scar? I can't remember. Just tell me how this works. I want to know. Stop being withholding with these alien cultural information things. The interesting thing about Star Trek, strange new worlds, new civilizations, all that kind of thing. Stop hiding it. They do open the progenitor device. It's like a shield that contains a portal. Very cool. They put that key in, open it. I thought for sure that one Breen guy at the beginning was going to die. I thought he was going to die as soon as he put the thing in. But he didn't. He survived. It opened, and he went into the hole that opened in this machine. Device, cylinder, canister, barrel. Don't tell Worf. It could roll off and kill him. We're making the Breen look so stupid. We're barging into the library like maniacs using force when we could have maybe gotten away with just being normal when we went in. Stupid. And now, double stupid. We're not sending in an unmanned probe. Are you crazy? Why are the Breen not sending in... Surely they have a probe that they could send in first, just to try it. Like, oh well, Like, I'm surprised that one of them just doesn't go, and the thing comes off their suit, and they let it float away, and it's a flying unmanned probe that they can just use as a portable camera. You know, something like that. But that's not what happens. We just sacrifice people. I don't... Really? Is that worth it? Does that make sense to just waste your own soldiers like that when, you know, they could be used for something better? I don't know. All these cultures are different, of course. But, you know, seeing people with such a wanton, you know, disrespect for their own people like that, it's old. It's old. It's like something that you've seen a million times. Oh, they're evil. They consider their own people, you know, expendable. What else is new? Come on, get something different. But we do waste a few Breen going into this hole. Or maybe they're not dead. Maybe they're not dead. Maybe they're okay on the other side. Who knows? I guess we're going to find out next episode about that. But we need to figure out what's going on inside this portal. Meanwhile, they have a containment field around it. We have to get that down. Distraction duty. Guess what, Book? What? You're on distraction duty. Michael will whisper talk to Book, and Book says, okay, well, hey, Sarkares is a Breen dinner day. Who are you taking to Sarkares? Well, if you don't have anyone to go with, I might go with you. And then the other Breen says, I will prepare a spot in the oil bath for you. Hurry up, Michael, this is getting weird. A sensible point of levity that you can insert into an otherwise tense episode without really hurting it. That's how you do it. Not by having characters stop and then saying, you know, we need to talk about us. Like Book and Michael do. Like, it's just, it's beyond belief that we're this far into the show. We're still kind of doing that. But it happens between Book and Michael. I don't know. We're only trying to save, you know, we're only saving the galaxy and the Federation and ourselves, but we can stop for a moment and talk, I guess. I don't know why. It's just, I would never do that, but, you know, to each their own, I guess. So we have Michael, when Book's on distraction duty, trying to disable the quarantine field around this device. And also we have Adira and Reese on hacking duty, trying to figure out a way to get the shield down to open up the rather large bay inside this dreadnought that has a point. There's a point to it being this large. I'll get to that. But things do go south, as they tend to. We can't get that transpo lock device onto that progenitor tech object without being caught. And we did get caught. Not without a little more self-affirmation for Adira. Really late into the season, we're still kind of congratulating Adira. Always got to pick on the ensign, as they say. When we kind of like, you know, come up to this ensign and just kind of yell at him to get away from this this panel so that they can hack it. You have your orders. Get out of here. We're taking over. Always got to pick on the ensign. They can change their rank, our characters, by just touching their suit. Too bad they couldn't change their biometric data. Reese is like, you got this. And I was wishing that instead of that, Adira successfully hacks something, and then Reese is like that. That would have been way cooler. But that's not what happened. We get a hand touch and a you got this, like Adira is a little kid. You know, it was really, really cute, and I really loved it when Tilly smiled at Adira in that one episode a few weeks ago, when Adira figured something out, and they kind of got, like, you know, the nonverbal mental lock with each other where they smile at each other. I thought that felt really natural and cool and worked for me. This, not so much. But we're caught. What are we going to do? Book and Michael try to get that transpo lock on the thing. Like I said, do or die. There's nothing else we can do now. Just try it. They make a run for it when they get the quarantine field down, and they're caught. They unhelmet themselves. They survived. Well. It looks like you have survived. And twirls mustache. Moll doesn't have a mustache, but she should. They, after all, thought they bought into that facade that the Discovery was destroyed last episode. Nah, they're still alive. And they had the element of surprise. How did you get in here? A courier never reveals his secrets. Again, I don't think we're going to be able to resolve the whole thing between Moll and Book in one episode. We established that Book knows Moll's father. Indeed, Moll's father was Booker before Book was Booker, if you can understand what I just said. I don't think that's going to have a logical endpoint. I don't think that means anything anymore. Like, where was that going to end? How are we going to resolve that? It's the next episode. That's the last time we're going to be able to kind of bring that whole arc to a conclusion. I hope we can do it. Because time and time again, Book has been the only character who has been able to get through to Moll on at least one occasion. And time again, Book has been denied the ability to develop that. Every time Book wants to, like, help Moll or get on Moll's side to kind of, like, switch things around, it's never really been it's never really been a part of Book's mission, right? Like, Book wanted to go with that one ship to intercept Moll because he knew so much about Moll, and they just denied it, and they just came up with some one-line reason from Culber, I think, why they couldn't do that, even though it was probably for cost reasons, because they couldn't show the interior of the other ships, which they still haven't shown yet. I don't think we're going to see the interior of any other future starship or current starship, because we are in 3180 something, whatever it is. I still think it's like the future of the future. Kind of strange, I know. We're in dire straits here, but listen, Rayner, not to be outdone, he's proactive too. He's not totally reactive in this episode. He's the acting captain of Discovery now. And he's not really taking a back seat. He's coming up with his own plans. He's taking charge. Fantastic performance by Rayner's actor, and a fantastic performance by the captain as well. That being acting Captain Rayner, introducing himself as Commander Rayner to Moll. You see him, he takes the bridge and makes it his domain. He walks around the bridge. As he's walking, he's talking to everybody at their station. What's up to this? What's happening here? Yada, yada, yada. As he's walking by them, mentioning their names, saying what's going on, needing an update. He's chewing the scenery here in a way. And it was absolutely fantastic. It was natural, and now I don't want to see Discovery go. It was good. It was good. Rayner was so good on the bridge. He had a little moment with Tilly where he says, I don't need any more of that fluffy nonsense. And then Tilly just kind of smiles at him, and you kind of knew that they got it. Like, they're not fighting. They're just kind of laughing at each other. It felt natural. Tilly and Rayner have chemistry somehow, for whatever that means. But Rayner is essentially saying, listen, things are very bad right now. We're going into Plan B. Decloak the Discovery and talk to Moll. We're going to make a surprise. They think we're dead. Maybe we can distract them. And it kind of does work for a little bit, although it does ultimately fail, as I said, when Michael and Book get caught. They decloak. Let me talk to Moll. Moll, listen. Tahal is coming for you. She wants your ship. She wants all the Breen soldiers on that ship. I offer it to you now. You can, the Federation will look after you. You can give us a progenitor tech now, and we'll try to look after it as best we can. And we gave our villain, Moll, that one customary get out of jail free card. Like, we tend to do that in Star Trek. Before we kind of like blast the hell out of somebody, we got to give them that one last chance, right? And we did it to Moll. You saw it. Moll willingly went with the Breen, and you saw on screen that we offered it to Moll to give up now. So whatever happens after this happens to Moll. Sorry, guys. We gave her a chance. So it wasn't so much as a bluff by Rayner, but it was, number one, a distraction, and number two, kind of like a legal issue here, just to say to the Federation, when it's recorded in the ship's recorder, we tried to do something, we tried to fix it, this is our last stand, essentially. And it does fail, but there's one more trick up their sleeve. This whole season, and it plays into the theme. This is why I like this episode so much. It plays into the overarching theme of this whole season, that of what I've noticed to be understanding the culturally specific idiomatic speech of aliens or non-human beings. That's what it was about. Remember early on in the season, we were talking about taking time to learn about human culture, taking time to learn about Kelleron culture, that of Rayner. learning the little sayings, right? Not unlike Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra, when the blah blah blah. I don't think I have to bring that up if you know your TNG. There's a value to speech outside of the purely logical. There's a value to understanding the context of idioms, sayings, things that don't mean anything on the surface. Don't I deserve my grum of Ossicod? That's a Kelleron saying. When Michael says that when being confronted by Moll, Rayner knows, oh, I'm getting a message here. This whole season is learning these little idiomatic speeches. Even in this episode, we're talking about Saccharis. We're talking about Ackworm, Breen things. We're using it to get by in their dialogue, but we're using it in ours to trick them. Grum of Ossicod. Go back to a previous episode. This was already mentioned. Rayner hears it. I'm getting a message now. Whoa. What is Michael saying? Remember when I was on your ship, Moll, and I was outside of the ship, and neither of us would give up, and then I fell off your ship, and I was floating in space? I trusted that my crew would come for me. If we put that together with the Kelleron phrase, we're trying to tell Rayner that we need to be blown out into space, and you'll come for us. Okay? Truly testing the connection that we can have between Captain, First Officer, Human, Kelleron, and how our idiomatic speeches, our sayings, our aphorisms, I think you can call it, how they play together. Cementing that this season actually kind of has an idea, which can't really necessarily be said of like the first 2 seasons, maybe the first 3, I don't know. Again, it's an age-old Star Trek thing. We're just getting going when the show has ended, like Enterprise before it. It takes 3 seasons to get good, I guess. No matter how short the seasons are. What does that mean? Back in the day, a season was like 20-some plus episodes. Now they're 10, and somehow it still takes 3 seasons to kind of get the ball rolling. What is going on? Was there something special about 3 or the number 4? I don't know. You tell me. But because of this, no one else on the bridge understands this. Tilly doesn't know what the hell Michael's talking about, but Rayner does. So Rayner's like, listen, everybody, flexing his ability to have the crew trust him finally. We're going in guns blazing. Stamets, how do we take that shield down by force? Well, if we can do X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 do some math. Math doesn't lie. We can have the ship go in at this angle, focus the shield in this direction. We should be able to pierce through the shields like that. They're working around the clock inside the ship to take down the shields. We'll be doing on the outside. And we need to actually ram the Discovery into the bay of the Dreadnought. That's why it was so big. That's why we kept visually establishing how big this, shuttle bay thing is on the Dreadnought. It's big enough to fit the Discovery. Awesome. And for the first time, it felt to me like it was cool to shove a whole starship into something. I never really liked this because I always thought of these starships as kind of like carriers, like little fighters should be doing this. But for the first time, I kind of thought it was cool. And this plan does work. I wish Stamets, instead of saying, math doesn't lie, it would have been funnier if Culber says, do you think this is going to work? It would have been awesome if Stamets says, nope. Another way we could have added tension. It would have been cool if Stamets says he doesn't think it's going to work. That would have been a great line. But anyway, it does work. I guess math does not lie. Hooray, this is the power of math, people. We do pierce through its shield, and we ram the Discovery into the shuttle bay, launching everything in there into space as it violently decompresses. Launching Book, Michael, all these characters into space. Not before Michael steps into the portal inside the progenitor device. This is our last stand. We're going to die anyway. I'm going inside. Michael gives Book a little smile, and then Michael just walks right into that portal. It's in that cylinder. As does Moll, I believe. I believe Moll goes in it, although my mind is drawing a blank right now. The Discovery, for the first time in 5 seasons, the Discovery looks cool. We're taking advantage of the fact that the nacelles are detached. Finally, we move the nacelles from the sides up and in. It looks sick. That's all we had to do, was move the nacelles a little bit to make the Discovery look cool. Oh my gosh. We do that in order to better protect the nacelles and reduce the size profile of the Discovery so it fits better into the shuttle bay. Why were we not doing this all the time? If we can put the nacelles anywhere, put them closer together. Why not? Ugh. Anyway, the Discovery does get into the shuttle bay. It does, I assume, transport back in all non-Michael personnel, leaving Michael, Moll, and a few Breen alone inside that extra-dimensional space, inside the portal that's in that progenitor tech cylinder. But the music is beautiful too, and the tube that contains this portal, you see it fly away, and they can't really catch it in time, and it bangs off a few things and explodes and reveals the portal inside, like it was containing the portal that was already there, this device. And this portal, it's not just a random light show. There's like a design to it. Like, look at it. There's like, go back and look. There's like a cloud here, black cloud here, and then there's like, they're notched like that. There's a symmetry to it. Does that mean something? It might mean nothing. I don't know, but it also might mean something. But we can't get them back. Captain's gone. The captain and the villain are in this portal, and Rayner is now on the bridge, and he finally takes the captain's chair. All season, we never seen him take the chair. He didn't want to really feel like the captain. He didn't want to get in that chair. He only wanted to get in it when he felt like he deserved it. And we deserved it, and we saw it. And he sat down in the chair, and he said, before he sat down, failure, not an option. And sat down in the chair, and then went like this. And he made it his own. I don't know how he just effortlessly made the whole situation his own. He just hit the armrest like that. Let's do this. And it was it was awesome. It was awesome. God, I've never seen an episode go from stupid to awesome this fast like this. It was like boring, predictable, stupid, and then whoa, this is absolutely amazing at the last moment. In the last act. Call it a mixed bag, if you will. But I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth. That was Lagrange, and I can't wait to see what happens in the final episode. Rayner's awesome. Tilly and Rayner were awesome together. It was awesome seeing Reese and Adira doing something on this ship. It was awesome seeing the violent decompression of the shuttle bay. It was awesome finally seeing a whole starship go into something in a way that made sense and not the enormous Galaxy class flying around like it was that big inside a Borg cube. That wasn't really for me. I know a lot of people love it, but it wasn't really my style. This is way cooler. I don't know why. But it's not. I don't think it's the first time the Discovery went inside something. It went inside the, the Chiron in season 1. It also spore jumped inside of a cave or something before, if my memory serves. If memory serves. That was Lagrange point. And we got that device over the Lagrange point, only to destroy it, revealing a portal that had sucked in Michael, a few Breen, and I think Moll. Uh-oh, what are we going to do? I can't wait to find out. Musically, where have you been? This sounded more like TOS than Strange New Worlds does. The moment where they ram into the shuttle bay, this is what they were saving their budget for, I guess, because it looks better than anything else in the season. But the music was absolutely fantastic. There was just something about it. It was mystical, whimsical, and tense. That's a hard combination to get and have it work. Whimsy and urgent together at the same time. It was magical. I don't know what else to call it. But I wish the whole season sounded like that. Thematically, like I said, we're actually playing in to the theme of the whole season. Thank you. From something that was thematically dry last episode to something that's a little bit more wet and a little bit more for me to chew on. What is going on with idiomatic speech, red herring, I can chew gum and walk at the same time. Groma Vasicod, save me when I'm violently thrust out into space. See how things are introduced, logically build up, pay off when they need to. That's when a show is satisfying. This episode was satisfying in that regard. Although it's not all perfect. Visually, the Discovery going into that bay is better than anything else that happened this season, by a long shot. The way it was visually done, it was very satisfying. Plot-wise, a lot of stuff happens. There's a lot of excitement, and I was genuinely on the edge of my seat when I saw the portal containment device being destroyed and fearing for what was going to happen to the people inside of it. If that doesn't mean it's interesting, I don't know what does, just from my point of view. It's setting up possibly a really good final episode, although they did mention Tahal's fleet coming. I don't like any more the idea of a large fleet coming in a final episode and just having a big battle, a big confusing battle with a million ships. I'm not down with that now. I don't want to see that. This hasn't been the first time that a penultimate episode hasn't, paid off for the final episode. There's been times where the episode before the final episode I thought was better than the final one. Let's hope that's not the case here. Again, a significant episode plot-wise, musically, visually, thematically. We're winning on almost every front. But it is loaded with weird nonsense on the ship between Moll and the Breen. I'm not quite connecting in my mind how this system officially works. Is Moll really in control here? Why is she in control? Why is Rune dead? Why do we still have these moments where we need to have Michael and Book talk to each other? Why did we warp or spore jump directly into this binary black hole system when we could have explained it to the viewer and increased the tension? A few little things here and there are keeping it from being really, really good, but I did overall like the episode. What am I going to give it? So far, this is probably my favorite episode of Star Trek Discovery Season 5. It's one of the better episodes of the whole series. Is it toe-to-toe with the first episode, Red Directive? I did like that episode. I haven't seen Kovich in a while. Where's Kovich? There's another character that's gone. No Detmer, no Wishkin, no Kovich. Saru came back. I'm going to have to go with a 6.5 for this episode. That's pretty good for me. You know how stingy I am. It's about as good as the first episode, if not a little better. This is almost a 7. Okay, I can't give it a 7, but it's almost a 7. If we had the first act had been a little stronger, this would be a 7. Sorry, that's just the way it goes. This has been Lagrange Point. I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I'm going to see you next week for the final episode of Discovery itself. The final Discovery episode. It's here. Just when I didn't want to see it go, and we had a pretty good episode. Again, it's not going to be for everybody. But I'm Lieutenant Mark, and I'm going to see you next time I see you. Signing out.